whatever 40-year-old homunculus troglodyte out there thinks banning phones.
Go back and watch that if you're interested. But I just really have to say something about this new round of phone bans that are occurring in schools again. Now, look, sorry. Look, I went to public school. I went to elementary school, middle school, high school during the years of 2001 and 2015, particularly where I'm from in New York City. And during that time, there was a phone ban that existed then until it was lifted around 2014 when I was my second to last year of high school. And during that time, they were really strict about bringing the phones into school and whatnot. But it really it depended on what certain areas you were, like in New York City, and the punishment it was different between schools. But suffice to say, like, he's right. Phone bans don't work because in one way or another, how I grew up and experienced it, right? There was many ways of people bringing their phones into school, let alone like stores that were near schools, specifically like phone shops or like anything tech per se. Those businesses did an underground uh, business to charge kids with their phones by leaving their phones at the store for a specific hour, or let's say certain hours and whatnot. And when they're done for the day, they'll come back and get the phone, no problem. And those businesses, when I went to high school, they were making a fuck ton of money with that. But by the time when the original ban here in New York City was lifted in 2014, it kind of declined over time because there was more of a push to change that. And needless to say, my point is with this whole video, right? Banning things don't work. Like, you know, one way or another, there's always going to be somebody, sophisticated or elaborate enough to bring in a specific thing that it's banned to begin with, such as a phone. So it doesn't matter how much time and effort or many plans that these schools are trying to do in terms of banning phones and whatnot. There's always going to be some kid sophisticated enough to bring their phone in no matter what. And it's always going to be the same prevailing issue again and again and again and again and again until the city, state, local governments and whatnot lift those bans again, and therefore all of it is back at square one, which means, to put a more simplistic approach, that banning phones was a fucking waste of time and money. You know, if you really want kids to be vested in school or like in terms of their education, perhaps invest more with the schools, in terms of programs that will help kids, to strive better or, connect by having, having them make new friends in terms of after school programs. That's what, you know, where I'm from, like that's what they used to have, but not anymore. I don't understand why, but that's just my point. I'm not being a fuddy duddy or an old cynical bastard, but I'm just saying from my own experience, banning things don't work because it was that, like when I went to high school, and there was the phone ban, there was other bans like that was kind of important, but otherwise, people in my generation didn't give a fuck either way, and it was impossible to enforce it because people kept bringing the shit that was supposed to be banned into the school. Yeah.